Hi everyone. Welcome. Okay, first of all, a big thank you to Shayna Sharifian, who puts this all together from the beginning with the food and the space and the topic and the flyer, which she has comments on too, and everything else that she does. So we are really very grateful that this class is still going on. What are we, like a year and a half in or something? 2 years? I don't even know anymore. I lost count after the 15th. I don't know. Baruch Hashem. Friends, hope you're all doing well and you're healthy. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so tonight we're going to tackle a very big topic, something that I am very involved in all the time, even today. The amount of I wish one day I'm going to publish all my WhatsApp messages, okay, but anonymously, obviously, because I'm very into anonymity and privacy. The topic is in love versus infatuated, and that's going to be tonight's topic. I've spoken here before on red flags in dating, which is a different topic. I've spoken about how to date. So now we're talking about something completely different, and that is, I've even spoken about narcissism in relationships. This is something else. This is potentially very good people, fine people, caring people who think they're in love, but actually they are infatuated. And we're going to take a journey together, and I'm happy to take questions if you want to ask them as well, because all of you, to some degree, have been involved in a infatuated relationship, as I'll explain, which is, well, I'm going to define that as well for you very clearly. And I'm going to hopefully start with some stories, go through what I mean when I say infatuated, and then God willing, if you have time at the end, we're going to try to get to what a good, healthy relationship is. Actually, you'll hear from the unhealthy what healthy actually is. And then we'll take any questions if you have them. That's the order of the evening, while you're enjoying your delicious pizza and French fries. Okay, let me start with a few stories. I have literally a million stories, but just a few, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. I had a situation where a guy and girl were online dating, and they hadn't met live. It was a COVID thing, and they'd online dated a bunch of times, but they'd never met live, and it was just a lot. And they were WhatsApping and calling each other and online. After, I don't know, 6 months of this, he decided he was able to fly in to where she was. It was a distant relationship. Fly into the other part of the country and to finally meet this young woman and to see where she was and what was going on. So he flies in and he arrives. As he gets off the plane, he tells me he sees her there waiting among all the people in the airport with a sign saying, "Welcome to my life." Ouch. Okay. They spent Shabbat together. He realized very quickly that the time they'd been in contact wasn't just getting to know you, but she had become unhealthily infatuated and obsessed with this relationship, that when they met up, he was meeting up in this case just to get to know her, and she was meeting up because, are you crazy? This is done. You're the one. It was an awkward finish to the Shabbat. Never have a sign saying, "Welcome to my life," when you've never even met live. Story number one. I got tons of these, by the way. Story number two was a girl who recently got engaged. I think I mentioned this story before. She got engaged to a guy she'd been dating for 2 years, and she could not plan the wedding date because this guy wasn't what she envisioned she would be married to. Just couldn't see it. And she had this image that she'd grown up with from very young of what she thought she would be married to. By the way, there are many variations of this story. This is just one example of it. She couldn't pull the trigger and make a wedding date. Great guy, families, everything's going well. She just couldn't do it. She spoke to her therapist, who told her, and I found it funny, but I kind of get it, she needs to throw a funeral for the guy that she thought she would end up with. How she's going to do that, or the method, I don't know. But that's what she needs to do. She needs to let that go, that image that she had from a very, very young age that she thought she would end up with. I had a girl call me from Florida. She was a student of mine many years ago. She's dating a guy for quite a while. And they were going through distance dating because he had to move down for business and work. Hi guys, welcome. He was dating for business and work, and she had to remain in New York. And she told him that I'm going out with my friends. A group of us are going out, having like a girls' night out. He flipped out. He could not handle the fact that she had outside relationships, outside friendships, and he would not let this go for days and days and weeks. He kept like, so where did you go? What happened? And who else was there? And what do you guys talk about? And she's like, we just went out. So I think I discussed last time, that's a red flag in a relationship. But from today's perspective, in his mind, he is not in a healthy, boundary stated relationship. He's infatuated with something in his mind. Where does infatuation come from? We're going to discuss. Of what he thinks or how he thinks a woman should respond and react and be like when he's not there. I don't know if any of these stories are ringing bells with you or stuff you've been involved in, even if it's not exactly the same. And it's not just guys and girls who are in relationships who get infatuated. Infatuation can come in many shapes, ways, and forms. I had a mother call me up, and she just reached out to me again today, about actually, you know what, let me tell you another story first. I had a situation of a girl who was dating this guy. She was in her 30s. He was a very prominent professional, a doctor actually, and they were dating. And while they were dating, the mother was a little distant and cold towards her, his mother. He was never married. He must be nearly 40, never married. And she wants to approach this young girl who'd been dating for a long time, her son, and said, you know, I'm gonna get this right. He usually only dates very, very beautiful women. You're very lucky. Wow. She called me up. Red flag. Yeah. Well, how's she going to cope with it, deal with it? And there's no one answer to this. Some women are able to deal with mother-in-laws like that, and some people are not. Everyone is different. Everyone is different. So here the infatuation is the guy's mother is infatuated with her son, and he is basically totally dependent on her for all of his validation and affirmation and needs. I remember, you know, I have a very close relationship with my mother, good Jewish boy. I'll never forget, it was to a much smaller degree. I was dating my wife, and I had to fly to London, so, you know, my then girlfriend could meet my mother, and we flew in, and they met, and my mother, if you met my wife, she gives a very powerful first impression. She's an incredible person, right? Just 2 minutes with her, you're like, wow, I got it, right? That's what she's like. Anyway, so she met my mother, and that evening I was like, so what do you think? Is she for me? And she looked at me and said, who said she wants to be with you? You know, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that. A lot of good Jewish boys need to hear that from their mothers. Right? There's a lot of chachma, a lot of wisdom in that. Okay, fine. A few stories, we'll do a few more. They've all got one thing in common, and that is unhealthy relationships, lack of boundaries, lack of self-care, lack of realistic expectations. Because a good, healthy, love relationship has boundaries, has caring individuals, and people know where they start and where they end, and when you start and where you end. There's you and there's me, and we're connecting, and it's a real connection, but there's a healthy, safe distance between us, and we're going to put a good, healthy, safe zone around our parents and your parents Do you know how many engagements, let alone boyfriends and girlfriends, I've seen recently break up over parents on both sides getting involved, arguing with each other, arguing through the kids. It's a big problem. I mean, I think I mentioned this before. I was involved in a relationship where the guy called off the wedding. I was meant to do the wedding myself a week before the chuppah. I think I mentioned it last time I spoke to you. Okay. So why do people even get this infatuation? Where does it come from? And by the way, people who are infatuated are not bad people. They're not narcissists. They're not people who are trying to take advantage of other people. They have a problem. And we all have this to some degree. All of us, whether you like it or not, whether you realize it or not. And that is, as a child, you have feelings of abandonment. Abandonment. It could be your parents, it could be your role models, it could be your teachers, your whatever. There's this piece of you that is just missing. It's just not there. You didn't get, whoever you are, and we all get it to some degree, didn't get the right amount of love, the right amount of care, and the right amount of connection from our childhood. And even the people in the best families, with the most loving parents and the best school experiences, are going to be, to some degree, feeling this lack. Okay, so what happens? Well, you can live with that, right? You can go to school, get a job, you can make friends, you can even have a boyfriend or girlfriend. But what invariably happens, in many cases, and I've never seen a across-the-board reason why it happens the way it does, is that these people are going to, this is very important, seek out the person, that one person who is going to fill that gap that me, the infatuated person, right, have like a hole inside me, and they're going to give me unconditional love and unconditional affirmation and attention and make and relieve all of the abandonment issues that I had as a child. And we're all dealing with that. That's normal, and it's almost, dare I say it, natural. I call this, or it's called actually, the Prince Charming syndrome. And I mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. And there she is, lying on the slab, half out of it, with her hair, right, on the concrete, and she's looking up, and then he turns up on his white horse, and he jumps off, and he's beautiful. He's just everything she's ever wanted, with the perfect long hair, yeah, and the perfect nose, and the perfect chin. I had the girl say to me recently, he's a great guy, everything about him is amazing, I just don't like his hair and nose. I'm like, we're Jewish. We can shorten it. It's okay. You can change the hair. You can get plugs if you need them, right? You can change those. We Jews are very good at shortening our names and shortening our noses. It's all good. It's doable. Where does this come from? I mean, it sounds comical. I'm not saying you shouldn't be attracted to the person you're with. But if everything else fits in, what's lacking over here that a person's now made that the no-go reason why I cannot be invested in this relationship? And that's because they need this person to fill them up and to make them feel amazing all the time. The problem is, no one can do that. There isn't anybody alive who can fill up that need, that want, that desire, that empty hole that we all have inside us. It's unfair and it's an unrealistic expectation. No one can do it. And so when this Prince Charming comes off his white horse, and what does he do? He gives her a kiss. And she's, oh, I'm now awake. And what does she do? She gets off the white slab. She jumps on the horse and she rides away into the sunset. By the way, kissing a woman who's half comatose is illegal, and it's considered statutory rape in many states. So I don't recommend it. It's not a good thing. But that's the image we all kind of grow up with, that this guy, or this girl, or this teacher, this therapist, this child is going to fill that gap inside me. And if they do what they're meant to do, I'm going to be okay. But the truth is, No one can do that. Who can fill up that gap inside you? It's impossible. It's got to come from you. They can assist you along the way, but it's not real. And this fantasy of being rescued is something we take with us all the time. So unhealthy relationships, you leaving that open? Is there stuff in here, or is it just me? It's just me, right? Okay, is the intensity of the delusion and the unrealistic expectation. Okay, fine. So let's break this down into three, okay? Three characteristics of an infatuated relationship. And we'll try to do some stories along the way as well. Number one is, people assign too much time and value to that other person. They need constant validation and affirmation. This is always going to lead... Shane, could you leave all this stuff in there? Just a drop, yeah, thank you, if that's possible. I'm giving off a lot of hot air while I speak, I know. Thank you so much. Okay. This amount of time they constantly need, why is he not calling me? Why is he not reaching out to me? Why isn't she there when I call her? I WhatsApp her. Where's the callback? What's going on over here? It must be they don't love me. It must be they don't care enough about me. Because if they did, they'd be there when I need them. He's in a meeting. She's busy. She's a PA. She's cutting off a part of a person's body. What is she able to know? Right? People have got stuff going on. But you didn't call me, and you weren't there for me. And if your mother called you, it's too much. I had a girl say to me today, I'm not even kidding you, someone I know well, who said to me, you know, I've been dating this guy for a couple of months, and this really was something she mentioned to me today, this young woman, young girl, she said, I really don't miss him between dates. But when I see him, I enjoy being with him very, very much. I don't think it's a match. Like, who says? Who says that in a good, healthy relationship, you constantly need to be together? I mean, I'm in love with my wife. But you know what? Sometimes, Diana. you know what? I need a break. I mean, it's been 21 years. You can give me 30 minutes in the bath, you know what I'm saying? Right? As soon as they hit me in the bath, because I like soaking in the bath, right? But the salt's in there, I got the candle, I got a whole crazy thing going on, right? I need my space, right? And it's like, as soon as I'm in, door opens, Abba! I can't find my loose leaf! I'm like, I'm in the bath. I love my kids, I love my wife. But there's got to be a boundary. There's got to be a safe space, you know? I say jokingly, I see, when you get married, you want your in-laws living in the hot zone. What's the hot zone? Not close enough they can visit you every day, but close enough that when they make food and deliver it, it's still hot. You gotta, I mean, it's a joke, but it's true. You want a little bit of, so do I miss my wife all the time? I'm like, sometimes, and sometimes it's a relief to be away from them. That's okay. This doesn't mean I'm not madly in love with my wife, which I am. But it comes and goes, right? And my happiness is not dependent on her constantly. And there's parts of my relationship where I need it, but I need you now. You know, I need you. And she's like, well, I'm at work. I'm dealing with the kids. And I see a lot of problems come up, let alone dating in marriages, where the guys feel as though I'm not getting what I need. And I'm like, but you're the solution to your own problem. She isn't. Be a big boy and go find a therapist or rabbi or friend to talk to. Your wife is not your therapist. She's not going to fix your life. That's what it comes down to. Number two, unrealistic expectations for unconditional, positive love. Some people cannot bear the thought of being alone. I see some girls and guys who always need to be dating someone. Do you notice this? They always need to be in a relationship. It's like if they're not in a relationship, I'm finished. They always need to be with someone. I'm like, you know, it's okay after you break up from a 2, 3, 4, 5 month relationship, definitely more, where you take 6 weeks of just, but there's a really cute guy, and I'm like, say to him, and he'll actually enjoy this. I'm not dating right now. I need some time for myself. It's good. It's healthy. It's expected. You need that space to decompress. Now, if it turns from 6 weeks to 6 months, then we got a problem, Houston. But otherwise, it's a good, healthy thing. Because of their desire to be loved, cared for, and protected, and it's not being satisfied, what ends up happening is they build resentment. And that's the source of all resentment in relationships. I'm not getting what I need from you, my person that I chose. I chose you. You're welcome to fix me. Do you know what an important position I gave you? Do you know what my parents did for me all these years, and now you're coming to take that? I don't think so. The weird thing is that a lot of these people can't leave because they're fearful of being abandoned, but they can't stay because they don't want to be abandoned. So they're stuck in this no-go zone of not being happy in or out. You've all experienced that. I mean, I have, right? Well, while you're there, I don't want to be abandoned. And when you're, I'm like, but I don't want, and I'm being abandoned now. So it's just this spiral of fear that comes into. The third characteristic of an infatuated relationship, that was 2. Number 1 was assigning too much time and value to this partner. Number 2 is unrealistic expectations. Number 3 is, and I see this a lot, and this is one of the signs you can look for if you're in an infatuated relationship as opposed to a loving, caring relationship, is neglecting to care for and value yourself. Okay? If I see a person in a relationship and they used to go to the gym, I don't know, 2-3 times a week, which, as we discussed before, is a mitzvah, take care of your body, and they stop, and their body starts to, that's a problem. It's a sign. It's a sign that you're not taking care of yourself. Right? If you used to go to, I don't know, meetings for your alcoholism, or you used to go to shiurim classes because they made you feel good and gave you a place of growth and honesty, and then suddenly you don't go anymore, it's a problem. It's a sign that now you're giving too much time, effort, that, you know what, that's not going to help me, and this person, the person, is going to do it for me. Hope I'm speaking with my back towards you. I apologize. I didn't see you guys behind me. Okay? So that neglect is a big problem. So there are basically, as we're saying, 2 fears of the infatuated person. 2 fears. Number 1, fear of abandonment. They're constantly scared that this person is going to leave them, and that's with them all the time. And it's hard to live with that because you're always walking on eggshells, right? Wondering, are they really going to figure out who I am and want to leave me? Because when they know the real me, they're not going to want me. In most cases, they know the real you already, and they like you very, very much, even with all the problems that you think you have, and even with a crazy family, because, oh, everyone has got some crazy mishpacha. Right? We're all dealing with it. It could be a cousin, it could be a parent, right? It could be an uncle. There's always an uncle. There's always one crazy uncle, right? Who's got the crazy uncle, right? Everyone's got a crazy uncle, right? He's always rich. At least that's the bonus that comes with it. There's always one given uncle who's got to go, like, oh, but if they meet him, they're gonna. So they're constantly fearful. It's okay. She's got a crazy uncle too. We're all dealing with it. So fear of abandonment, and they'll tolerate almost anything to avoid being abandoned. This is, I mean, to an extreme, which we're going to talk about even, is the abused wife. You see this whole stories? You hear this stories about the wife who is beaten and hurt, and then her friends or family manage to pull her out, and then she goes back. You're like, well, how could you go back? You know what this guy's capable of? It's illogical. It's like those people who get released from prison and then re-offend just to go back in because they're institutionalized, right? You saw the Shawshank Redemption. I spoke about that movie before. It's a real thing. It's the same relationships. Because the pain of abandonment is worse than that slap across the face or that emotional abuse that I'm getting from this drunken woman or this angry guy or whatever it is. Okay? That was number 1. So that's the first fear. The second fear, and this is a big one, and we could double click on this and talk about this all night, but I want to mention it now. And that is fear of intimacy. Now, when I talk about intimacy, I don't mean physical intimacy, because most divorces don't come, divorce documents tell us, from physical incompatibility, but they come from emotional abuse and emotional incompatibility. That's what you're looking for while you are dating. We're going to assume there is a physical attraction, if not on the first date, then, later on. Fear of intimacy, emotional intimacy. Scared I'm going to open up and they're going to get to know the real me. And they're not going to like me because I don't really like me. So what chance are they going to liking me? It's not true. It's inaccurate. It's not a rational vision of what's really going on in your life. That's not who you are. Most people I meet are good people. Most people are not narcissists. Most people are not egoistic. Most people are good, nice, kind people who have grown up with some form of dysfunction, even with great families, some form of disappointment that has left them a little bit open and vulnerable. And they're nervous to share that. And by the way, you don't want to overshare it, especially not on the first date. Now, you don't have to on your first date. Well, tell me about your mother. All right, so let's talk about her first of all. And relationship with your father, all right, and then go through a whole list. Let's not save that for the third date, you know what I'm saying? That's a good idea. It takes time, all right? Don't push. Take it easy. Right? Intimacy equals into me, you see. Intimacy equals into me, you see. Right? And if you really look inside yourself, you're probably a really good, nice person. And in most cases, you don't deserve the bad things that are being done to you in your relationships. Okay. Any questions so far on anything I said? Are we relating to this? You don't have to nod. I know you all are. Yeah.
I know you said that there's a relationship that there's a certain point of talking to the rabbi, therapist, friend. But if you guys are a married couple, whatever it is, isn't there up to a point where you should talk about how you're feeling and what's going on in your life?
Yes. Very good. The question is, you're married. Shouldn't you be talking to each other? Okay. I have a lot to say on this. Most people, even people who are married for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I've been people married for 20, 30 years, do not know how to communicate. Do not know how to communicate. They actually have no idea. They think they're communicating, but they're not. They're talking. Talking does not mean real communication. It's a skill. It takes time. It's a learnable skill. And some people just don't do it. I myself, Baruch Hashem, 21 years of marriage, and I would call it a good marriage. And we also have miscommunication. Right? And she will lose it with me, everything. But I didn't mean that. You said it, but that's not what I meant. Right? It happens. It does happen, And that's okay. So could a couple who've been married for 15, 20 years, is it possible that they could need a third party to come in and teach them how to communicate? Most likely, yes. It's never too late, is the short answer. And it's highly recommended. The earlier you do it, the better. Actually, it could well worth while you're actually dating, not just to go have a good time with your little group of friends, go to movies and all the rest of it, but to actually spend an evening with a third party, someone who knows, and that person will direct you. Because there's going to be something, there's no way two people know how to communicate who've never met each other, right? Who just spent the past few months or a year together with different parents and siblings and experiences and school experiences. How can that be? Does that make sense to you? That makes sense. Two completely different. Yeah, we're both from Great Neck. I don't care. What the heck I got to do with it? Right? It's both the same mayor. Nice guy, by the way. But that's not going to help, is it? Right? It's a learnable skill. Just like you have to learn how to play the piano. I mentioned it before. Right? Having a spouse makes you into a good husband or wife. It's like having a piano makes you into a good pianist. It's two completely different things. It takes time, and it's a learnable skill. Okay. I've said a lot. I've got a few more things to say, and then we'll open up with any thoughts or questions you may have. So I have put together the 8 stages of infatuation. Okay? Now, most of you, as we're going to see, don't reach step 8. Because if you do reach the 8th step that I'm going to go through, you'll probably spend time in prison. As I will demonstrate very clearly in a moment. But I'm sure most of you to some degree have suffered with 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Once you get near 7 and 8, then, you know, it's dodgy territory. Okay, number 1. Now, we all have this. Who here, put your hands up, if you don't mind. I mean, how many people do you have over here? I don't know, 40, 50 people. How many of you have ever experienced love at first sight?
Sure.
Yeah? That's it? Okay. So 5 of you are telling the truth, and the rest of you are lying. Because who hasn't? By the way, just so you know, infatuation, right, if you remember, as we defined it, is seeking the person who's going to fix me and make me feel great. The person who's going to make everything okay. It doesn't have to be a real person. It could be a movie actor or actress. Right? Those kids who have up on the walls, yeah, that actor or actress, sometimes with clothing on, right, who's going to come along, yeah, and is going to, by the way, I'm not even joking, right, that object, you don't even know that person is. And you say, I just think back, I'm dating myself, right, not literally dating myself because I couldn't bear myself, but, right, you see the Beatles videos, I'm sure you see it nowadays, we see these girls in the audience crying and screaming while watching. I can't even fathom that. I can't imagine anyone talking and me having such a visceral reaction. I mean, even the rabbis who I love and adore, I'm like, yeah, good point, but I could have done, you know what I'm saying? That's people I respect and I love. I'm like, that's so good. Oh, I really enjoy that. But you've seen they're crying, they're ripping their hair out, and they're throwing flowers and other things up on the stage. How could that be? You don't even know they are. It's infatuation. So it's not them per se, it's not the Beatles or some modern band is going to do it, but the idea of them is going to come and fix me. By the way, as a separate talk, you have to be very careful who you have your children or yourselves put up on your walls. The people who put up on your walls are who you aspire to be. So be very careful who and what you allow your kids to put up there. And I guess, you know, post online, it's the same thing, right? I mean, in my day it was just the wall. Now we put it on our social media wall, which is for everyone to see, not just a few people. Okay, love at first sight. We've all experienced it. You see that person, right, in a movie, yeah? And he's just, and she's just, and it's just like, right? It's real. The adrenaline, the synapses are going. But then it's not real because they don't know who you are. And if they met you, they wouldn't recognize you, right? And that's hurtful. Right? Because they're so cute, you know? And these famous people say that they walk around and people talk to them like they know them. Because they're in your home, they're on your television, they're on your computer all the time. But it's not real. It's this idea of this person coming in. Now there is lust at first sight. Oh, that there is, right? No doubt about that. That's understandable and normal and healthy. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about love. That this person is going to, okay. From there comes the fantasy. That's the old Prince Charming syndrome. And by the way, it's not a coincidence, I've mentioned before many times, that it's a kiss that fixes. Right? That's why the movie always finishes off with the kiss and then it ends. Meaning that, what message are we sending our children that we all took in, that we all drunk in as kids? That this kiss, i.e. this physical intimacy, is going to fix all my problems. Because once that kiss kicks in, everything's going to be okay. No. That's when the trouble begins. That's when the trouble begins. And I know this is a difficult topic to talk about, but I must mention it at this point. I'll be amiss not to talk about that. And this is something called Shomenagia. Or as my daughters call it, Shomer. That's Shomer. That girl, she's not Shomer. He's Shomer. He's not Shomer. Right? This is like a common thing. Meaning that they don't get involved in physical intimacy while they're dating. Okay, let me make something very clear to you. And I'm talking to you as a rabbi. Shomenagia, not being physical with the person you're dating, is totally unnatural. It's not natural. The natural thing is, I feel this connection, a good, healthy, emotional connection. You should want to be physical with that person. That's normal and natural. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the desire. Actually, I had a boy many years ago say, you know what, I've been dating this girl, and it's okay, I have no desire to touch her. I'm like, you got a problem, dude. Who doesn't have that desire to have a real feeling connection, to want to be physical with an individual? Okay? Now, it's a hard topic because people don't want to hear this, and I think don't want to say it. But I must say that one of the best parts to being able, that's why relationships should be as short and engagement periods should be as short as possible. Okay? On the wedding itself, you can be 3 hours late. We know you are, right? To start the chuppah. But until that point, you want to keep it as short as possible. Okay? Because it's not natural, it's not healthy. But as soon as you get physically intimate, the relationship changes. Even holding a hand. It changes. It doesn't change anything for me. I hear, right? But it changes something for her. Or maybe it does for him. Right? It's very hard to find clarity. As soon as there's physical intimacy, it's just more difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. Right? There's a lot of people out there, right? Or not showing a gear, who are in fine relationships. But if you're looking for clarity, and you're not looking to date for months and years, I'm assuming this crowd here tonight and those watching, right, maybe don't, then you want to push it back. And once again, it's not easy and it's not natural, but it does help. It does help when it comes to finding clarity in the relationship. Love at first sight turns into fantasy. And this fantasy zone, and it's just your brain goes there, and it's like the serotonin level changes, and it's enjoyable. It's like a drug. Relationships are a drug. Right? They fill you up. Right? You drink in the image. You drink in this idea of this person, once again, who's going to fill that hole that I never really got from my mother. I never fully got. I had great parents. Most of you could say I have wonderful parents. But they're not perfect. I'm a parent. I'm terrible. I just hug my kids. I kiss them, tell them I'm proud of them, and give whatever they want. And that's about it. You know what I'm saying? And they take advantage of me. Right? I'm just telling you that's the truth. My wife is the... Right? Okay, the fantasy is triggered. For the men, it's this super female who's going to come and fix it all. And for the woman, it's this knight in shining armor. This knight is going to come along and just make everything right. Yeah? Number 3, the romance stage is now triggered. I always say, romance is not real because there's no Hebrew word for romance. You know the Hebrew word for romance? Romantica. The Hebrew word, because it doesn't really exist. There is love, and there is pleasure, and there is friendship, and there is connection. There's Hebrew words. These are good, real, true things. But romance, right? You go to the club, and there's the smoke in the middle, right? And he's there, and she's there, and he looks at her, and he's like, are you? And she's like, uh-huh. And she looks back and she says, are you? And he's like, uh-huh. And then they walk to each other and the steam like splits, like Moses, right? And the Yam Suf, and they embrace, and the next morning she kills him. Yeah? That's Jonah's truth. The problem is the victim of the fantasy is not able to fulfill it. So because they feel this constant pressure, they have this need to abandon this person because you can't live up their expectations. But this person is scareful of being abandoned. So she or he's going to do whatever they can to keep them in. He wants to get out, but he can't get out. You hear the problem, right? Okay, that's 3 stages. Stage 4 is the person who shows neediness and denies the reality of actually being abandoned. Because at some point, he's like, or she's like, I can't take this anymore. I can't take your mother constantly on my case. I just can't. She's like constantly making comments to me, and I don't want to be around them, and we come from that, and I know you want to be there every Friday night. You don't need to be there every single Friday night. People think that if they miss one Friday night, the whole house is going to explode, right? It's all right. Everyone's going to fall into a hole in the ground. It's okay. It's okay. You can be in touch with them. You can give them time. I call my mother every single day. But when it comes to this as well, especially the first year of marriage, you want to be there, but you need your own space. You need your own space. Not every single Shabbat you need to be together. I know this is a taboo subject here among my Sephardic brothers and sisters, right, whose main connection to religion is Friday night by the parents or in-laws, but you need time together. And I mean without friends as well. Just able to get to know each other. And the more you get to know each other, suddenly the fantasy starts to disappear, which for some people is good news and for other people it's actually terrible, right? But he starts to abandon, or she starts to abandon, and they call less, and they WhatsApp, and there's now a 1 hour gap, then there's a 5 hour gap between text messages, and there's a 2-day gap, yeah? And she or he will make such comments as, he's so busy right now because, you know, he's busy at work. That's why he's not in touch with me, right? That's why he's been out of commission, right? She deserves to have some time, right, with her friends at work, after work. I get it, you know? And they're actually denying because the relationship is starting to unravel because this other person can't keep up with what you need. So now you're at level 5, which hopefully you do not get to. This is what I meant. Where the awareness that this person is actually abandoning me, what I feared the most is happening. And it's happening because I feared it the most. Right? That's the irony of this, but that's the entire point I want to get over to you this evening. Right? People are expecting it to happen, and eventually it will. Because that's what you're constantly bringing to the relationship. It becomes too hard to deny. Right? You see him elsewhere, he's not with you, he's checking out, she's not available, she's not giving me a mind or a time, even when we should be together. Eventually the person enters withdrawal, like a drug, and that's when they call you up, crying. You know that girl or guy calls you up crying, right? I can't believe this has happened, I love you so much. I mean, you had this phone calls, haven't you? I get them regularly, right? If you haven't, you need to get some real friends, right? So that's, well, you have real good friends, right? And it keeps moving. Their drug, the partner, yeah, has been taken away, and they enter into withdrawal. Now it gets ugly. Up to now, it's been livable. But then some people, if it gets to this point, which we hope it doesn't, the person obsesses about how they're going to get back at their partner or get even. Now this is the stuff that gets into the papers, right? This is the woman who is going to burn her husband's suits on the front yard or smash his car. You heard these stories? Right? It's unusual stuff. Happens a lot. Yeah? Or will, God forbid, hurt family members, sometimes their own kids, just to get back at their spouse. I mean, we look at this story like, how could it be? Who could hurt their own kids? But it didn't start like that. There were 6 stages before they got to this point. They could have stopped the madness much earlier on. It didn't just pop up over there, you know? It took a lot of dysfunction and disharmony and fantasizing and resentment to get to this point, okay? So Emily, well, if there's an Emily here, I apologize, obsesses over a boyfriend, right, who she knows has a girlfriend now. I had a guy who's infatuated with a girl, a nice guy, by the way, nothing wrong with him, except this one thing, of course. And he had a girlfriend for 1.5 to 2 years. Couldn't pull the trigger for whatever reasons. And broke up. She was devastated. She took, 3 months to recover, found another guy, and got engaged. And he was devastated, this guy, that, she found someone else. And he called me up to ask, this is true, called me up to ask me whether he could call her up right now and tell her that he made a big mistake and he wants to be with her. Now, in the movies, it's very cute. In the movies, it's very cute. He turns up, right, and she's at work, and he bangs over the door, and the secretary says, "No! You can't walk in!" And he's like, "No, but I love her." And he walks in, she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I made a mistake, a big, big mistake. I'll let you go." And she's like, "Do you mean it? But I'm engaged." And he says, "But I've always loved you. Are you sure?" She takes off the ring, puts it down, and they embrace. Credits. Out comes Samuel Goldberg up, and there's always like Samuel Gold, some Jew name right at the end. It's a problem. I told him straight up, you are totally forbidden to contact this girl in any way, shape, or form on social media, text, WhatsApp, through a friend, through a family member. You missed the boat, move on. Asur legamri. Actually, I cannot think, I'm going to put on my rabbi hat for a second, of a worse sin than doing that. Because she probably does feel towards. They spent a long time together. You don't just like break up and it's all over, right? And here's your stuff and my stuff. Here's your side of the cat and my half of the cat. It doesn't work like that. People take emotions. It takes months, weeks. Now, if it's years later, it still feels like a connection, but there's always something there. I saw an ex-girlfriend of mine when I was in my 20s, right? And I saw, I felt something. Oh, I'm going to leave my wife and go this. No, you're crazy, right? But you feel it's normal. It's understandable. Emotions take time. There's something there. That's okay. Right? I still see my old soccer team that I haven't followed for the past 40 years, and they win a game, and I'm still like, well, I feel good. Why do I care? Right? As Jerry Seinfeld said, it's different players, different manager, different stadium. The only thing that's the same is what they're wearing. I'm supporting laundry. It's just ridiculous. It absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. But that's what infatuation does. You carry it from your childhood. Why are you doing that to her? Totally forbidden for doing it. But maybe she's the one. Maybe she is. But now she isn't. And that's the problem. And you're going to move on from this. That's infatuation. That's fantasy. Yeah? You have this, a woman, she planned some mild form of revenge, and she imagined how she would smash her car into her ex's car just to get his attention, that he knows I'm still here and still feeling pain. Right? It didn't start with that smash. Right? It started way before that. Right? Or, you know, it doesn't have to be extreme. It could be Lashon Hara. It could be Lashon Hara. I had to... I was making shidduch recently, which, by the way, I'm terrible at. Setting up people. People say, I try to set people up, I'm just lousy. Is that what you think of me? Right? You set me up with a guy with 3 heads, right, and wooden legs. That's what you think of me, right? I'm just like, I'm good at counseling people once they're in a relationship or once they're married, right? So I was setting up a girl with someone from another city, and I happen to be I have like a side business I do, and I happen to be talking to some guy who comes, a Jewish guy who comes from the same, it's a small community. And I spoke to this guy, and I said, Bali, do you know this family, right, that this guy comes from, who wants to, I'm trying to say, he's like, oh, terrible family. What? And he went on, and I could hear his wife in the background, yeah, yeah. Wow. His exact words were, I wouldn't let anyone's daughter go near the father. I was like, oh, what? What would you have a phone call like that? Well, at this stage in my career, as my wife always says, don't take a pinch of salt. Take a sack, a pallet of that stuff. So I decided, you know, I'm going to give benefit, I'm going to make more phone calls. Another phone call? Yeah, lovely family. Lovely family. So like, what happened? These 2 guys had been together when they were younger, had a bad experience, and he'd held a grudge against him for decades. Decades. Right? And I called a rabbi, I called another rabbi, I called friends. I mean, I had a whole list. I'm not even kidding you. I made more phone calls than, you know what I'm saying? No one had a bad word to say about the family, husband, or wife, or the boy. People take stuff with them. Right? It's Lashon Hara. Pure and simple. Not based on anything. Now, if it's real and something there, and okay, it can be discussed, and there's Lashon Tov, because you want to prevent a person getting involved in a bad relationship. But, you know what I'm saying? So people speak against each other, against your ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, that's we Jews consider that violence. It's violence. Lashon Hara is violence. Stage 8, which is the final stage, which you really want to get to, and that's when the person actually carries out the obsessed plans that they had been thinking about, you know? Because we all experience this. That ex-boyfriend or that ex-girlfriend is still in our heads, and they're living there rent-free. You're giving these people, they've moved on, and they're living in your head rent-free. And we're Jews, we don't like rent-free, we're charging for it, you know what I'm saying? And I have a story of, and there's so many stories, I just picked one up, right, a couple of years ago, which I found online. A woman accused of killing husband with Mercedes. She's not a schlepper, she had a nice car, at least, you know what I'm saying? It was like a Honda or Toyota, right? Suspecting her husband of having an affair, Clara Harris did what wealthy wives can afford to do. She hired an investigator, but what the private eye saw could be Exhibit A against Harris herself. As the investigator's camera rolled, enraged Harris said she killed her husband in a parking lot by running over him 3 times with her Mercedes-Benz and leaving the car parked on top of him. The victim's 16-year-old daughter was in the passenger seat with her. Oh no, she didn't. It was an accident! Harris, a 44-year-old dentist, told reporters after arrest on murder charges. The episode happened outside a hotel after Harris confronted her orthodontist husband, David, and got into a screaming fight with the alleged other woman. So after they obsessively planned, again, most cases do not end up over here, I hope, right? And if it's not a Mercedes, it could be a BMW, same thing, right? And the cycle begins and no one's going to do it. So, do we have time for the healthy love relationship? Okay, fantastic. Basically, everything I said is the opposite. Healthy love relationships are not based on lust. They're not based on fantasy. There's not the expectation. I don't want to burst the bubble, and it's painful. Don't shoot the messenger. No, seriously, don't shoot the messenger. Don't expect this guy or this girl to make everything great for me. It's not going to happen. It just doesn't work. This person can bring me great joy, great simcha. We can build a beautiful, healthy family together, but I'm not relying on him and I'm not relying on her to make everything great. And we're different. And we come from different backgrounds and different families. And we have a lot of stuff in common and we probably won't be together. But that's not going to be enough because we're going to have to learn how to communicate. Because fantasy is in your head, right? And love relationships come through good, healthy, boundary-based communication. As I always say, the word for shalom comes from the word shalem, which means whole, complete. I'm complete, you're complete. Let's bring those 2 spheres together, right? And make little creatures who look just like us. Right? Oh, isn't that great? They're really annoying, by the way. Okay. Okay? Each is a part of a whole, not half a part. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So what is love? So the Mishnah Perek Avot says, right, don't let your love be dependent on things. If you're expecting things to come and fix you, I like him because he's got money. I like her because her family's rich. Oh, by the way, we could talk all night on that. Did I ever talk about this, by the way, Shana? Right, how people expect rich families, right? The married girl, because you know a lot of these people don't give their money away. Just because you marry into a rich family doesn't mean you're getting it. And if you do, you're wearing, what do I always say? Golden handcuffs. Thank you so much. Be very careful for that. Ain't no thing as a free lunch. It always costs. What are you talking about? Her father's paying. Oh, he's paying now. You're going to pay later. You better watch out for that. When it comes to Rosh Hashanah, oh, but I give you more money than them. You got to come to me for Rosh Hashanah. But I'm paying for your Pesach. You got to come to us for Pesach. Oh, just wait for that one, brothers and sisters. That's coming, right? Real love. What are we saying? Real love starts with, it's a cliche, but it's so true, with love of you. All right? You've got to love yourself. If you don't see your own self-love, then none of us really do. Right? Everyone's suffering, I've mentioned before so many times. Every talk I've given, every topic comes down to this one truth. We're all suffering from chronic and debilitating low self-esteem. So what do we choose? Someone's going to lift us up. But no one could do that. All right? Because sometimes they don't have patience for you, or you're really irritating them. So they're not always going to be able to do that for you. Okay? Don't take criticism too personally. Okay? Now, I personally fall for this all the time. My wife will say something, and I take it personally. And she didn't mean it personally. She just asked me 5 times to do something, right? And tells me I never do it. Because she just wants it done. But in our minds, in our infantile, childish way of looking at the world, which we all are, because you now realize we're just big babies, right? We think that I'm being told off by the principal, or the teacher, or my parents, or my older sibling. But you're not. Don't take it personally. It's not about you. Actually, in most cases, it's not about you at all. It's just they want this thing done. They want you to call their parent. They want you to, because someone's got to do it. Don't take it all too personally, yeah? Don't blame. In healthy relationships, people blame all the time. Right? I'm the king of that. If you would have done what you had to do, I wouldn't have. If you obeyed better, you hear, unfortunately, little kids talk about abusive parents. Just 2 more minutes. And they'll say, I grew up and I wanted to play with my father, I played ball, or I want to hang out with my mother, and I don't know, do something around the house, or go shopping, or go out with her, or whatever it was. And they said, you know, it costs a lot of money to, think I got time for this? But the kid needs the attention. Right? They want it. Right? And they didn't get it from you, so they're going to go elsewhere. That feeling doesn't disappear. It's got to go somewhere. And again, I'm not talking about bad parents. 99.9% of the parents I meet are good people, right? And pretty much all of them screw up when it comes to bringing up their kids. It's just the way it is. Set up boundaries, but not walls. I know people who've been involved in some terrible relationships, and they say, well, this one's going to be different. I'm going to set up boundaries. They're setting up walls, and walls mean they don't let anything get through. And the guy's like, I'm not getting anything here. And she's like, I'm banging on a brick wall over here. Right? It's good to dove into the wall, right? But you don't want to be dealing with the relationship, which is a wall and not a boundary. Boundaries are movable. They're flexible. It can be lowered sometimes, like a mechitza, right? They go up, boop, and then go down. Right? We all need a little bit of that. Okay? Don't try to control your partner. You've heard it before. I'll say it again. You are not going to be able to change your partner. What you see while you're dating is what you're going to see for the rest of your marriage. All you got to figure out is, can you live with that or not? That's what it is. And some people can, and some people can't. I don't know. It's up to the individual, because there is no perfection. Okay? Basically what I'm saying is, you got to try to view the other person as realistically as possible. And that comes through, as someone put it, you've got to date and get a relationship from head to heart. And that's tough, because we're emotional beings. But you've got to let your head download it, and then let your emotions get involved in that relationship. And you both can negotiate and accept compromise. That's a healthy relationship. Right? I am what I am, and you are what you are, and we can bring this together, although we're different. Right? Stay away from infatuation. If you feel you have it and you see it in past relationships, you're going to see someone to kind of fix it before you get involved with your next one. And talk therapy. Doesn't mean medication even. Talk therapy. Talking to people about it. It's not Lashon Hara. Is a good way just to get it out. And it helps a lot. And you need a third party who's involved, who's going to give you an accurate, honest evaluation of whether you're really in a love relationship or there's an infatuation thing that's going on over here. So God willing, we'll all be able to get involved in relationships that are love-based, with boundaries and real ahava, and not the opposite, chas v'shalom. This has been an hour we've been talking. That's a long time. We'll stop over there. We'll take any questions if you have it. But thank you all so much for coming out tonight. It was a big deal. Thank you, guys. 2 minutes. Any questions before you finish off the rest of the pizza that Shayna kindly ordered, and French fries and the candy? Any thoughts, comments, questions? No problem. Feel free to WhatsApp me anytime with your thoughts. When you let this information digest, I'll be happy to hear from you. But thanks for coming on. Thanks again, Shayna, for bringing this together.